Listen, your affliction and your pain is a part of your purpose. Well, let me say that again. I said your affliction and your pain is a part of your purpose. And you may say, God, I don't want to go through no pain and I don't want to go through no affliction. I don't want to go through no suffering. So, God, you could keep that part of my purpose, but I want to be used by you. I want to be used for your glory. God, I'm ready for you to use me. I surrender and submit my life to you. So, because you prayed that prayer, and I know many of you have because I prayed it, right? Now, because pain, suffering, and affliction is a part of your purpose, God is now going to answer your prayer. Are you hearing this? Oh, are you hearing this, right? So, what is affliction? Affliction is pain, is suffering, is tragedy, right? Is trouble, right? Is sorrow, is misery. It's a part of your life which is not doing good. It's a part of your life which is lacking, right? So, being that God created us, you guys, he created us for his good pleasure. He didn't create you for you and for you to go out here and doing what you want to do and forget about him, never pray, never give him any time. No, he created you for him. And your purpose is to have the name of God be glorified through you, child of God, right? Whether you preaching to somebody, whether you suffering, whether you encouraging somebody, somehow in your life, right? You are supposed to glorify the name of God, right? So it's kind of like we need to see the power to be displayed in his earth so that people's faith can be increased, so that people can know that God is really real. But in order for us to know that God is really real, we have to see his power displayed on this earth. I need to see more than the sky. I need to see more than the trees. I need to see more than people walking around. God, I need an experience. I need to see your power displayed in this earth. Now, what am I talking about, you guys? How would we know the power of God if it is never displayed, right? So sometimes God got to allow you to get sick so that we would know that he's a healer, right? Sometimes God got to allow somebody to be bound, and when he brings us out, we now know that he delivers you, right? And sometimes God has to allow you to be in a situation that you do not see a way out of in order for us to know that he brings us out of situations that look unchangeable. Oh, yes. Many of you guys have been through things. Many of you are still in things, and these things look like they are never going to change. And you are just ready to accept that part of your life as, okay, God, this is just going to be my thorn in the flesh. This is just going to be what I'm going to deal with for the rest of my life. Have your way. It is what it is. This thing is not going to change. You are not going to change it, right? Because we go through things so long, you guys, we begin to get discouraged and think that this is just my portion in life, right? So I have a scripture that I want to read you guys, right? And this is John chapter 9. I'm just going to read the first 3 verses, right? But the title for this says, Jesus heals a man born blind, right? Verse 1 says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from his birth. Meaning this man had never seen a day in his life. He was born blind, right? So Rabbi, his disciples, they asked him, why was this man born blind, right? Was it because of his own sins or was it because of his parents' sins? So now the disciples are looking for a reason for his affliction. Why was he born blind? Why was he suffering, Jesus? We need to know, what is it that happened for him to be born blind, right? So Jesus said, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sins, but Jesus answered, this happened so that the power of God could be seen in him, right? So being that God created us for his good pleasure, see, these things are never about us, you guys, right? So God allowed this man to be born blind, right? So that the power of God may be displayed in him. But the power of God is going to be displayed when God heals his eyes, right? Sometimes it's those situations that we go through that looks unchangeable, that the power of God is displayed in them, right? Those miraculous things that happen in your life, child of God, Those things are going to make people's faith grow. They're going to make people look at God and say that had to be God. It's no other explanation why this person survived stage 5 cancer, right? This person was supposed to die. But because of God's healing power, he works a miracle and that person walks out of the hospital. So now the doctors, which are unbelievers, they're going to look at this like, this is defying medical, right? Like, we don't understand how this person survived this. Anybody else that survived stage 5 cancer, nobody has survived that. But how in the world did this person do? So now what happens is those doctors look at, this is a power that is bigger than medicine, right? So now what that does, it makes those doctors interested. Like, I need to know more about this guy, right? But because that person, they had to suffer through cancer, but God had to heal their body, they look at that situation and they say that this had to be God, right? So that lady or that person who had cancer, right? God's name was glorified, but it was through her affliction, right? So many of you guys, some of you guys have gotten in bad car accidents. And from the looks of the car, people will look at it and say that that had to be God. We don't know how they walked out without a scratch the way that that car looked. That had to be God, right? And that's going to make people that don't believe, it's going to make them believe that there's a power which is greater in this earth, right? I need to know more about this God. I need to know more about this God, right? Sometimes God has to allow you, child of God, right, to really go through some hard time and some suffering. And he has to allow you sometimes to be in situations that you think would never change, right? These things look as impossible. Like, these things look like, because you've been dealing with them and battling with them and going through them so long, it looks like this is just your portion in life and you just accept this thing as my thorn in the flesh. God, this is what it is. You're never going to change this, right? But this man, born blind, right? Never seen a day in his life. God changed this situation around, right? God gives sight to the blind. So now people look at that and say that that had to be God. There's no reasonable explanation that the thing that you went through, child of God, you did not lose your mind. Anybody else that went through the thing that you went through, they would have lost their mind. So people are going to look at the situation like, I don't understand how they didn't lose their mind. I just don't understand. It had to be God, right? It's no other explanation. It had to be God, right? So those situations in our lives that make people say, even you say, that it had to be God, is God's name being glorified. It's going to be through your affliction, right? So God already knows whatever that situation is that you're in, that you've been in so long, and it looks like it's going to never change. God already knows that there is a date written in heaven for you to be delivered from that thing, right? This man born blind, that situation looked unchangeable, right? But if God can't change it, then it cannot be changed. The same way that God gave that man back his sight is the same way that God is going to bring you out from whatever you're going through, right? You got to trust him. Don't give up hope, right? If the devil can get that little thing inside of you that is like, maybe one day, maybe God could change my story around. Maybe God can, because the moment that you begin to look at the situation, and that's what the devil wants. He wants us to keep our eyes on the situation, because if he keeps our eyes on the situation, we're going to lose faith, right? So that little piece in you that is believing that God maybe can turn it around, hold on to that, right? Don't let the devil take that, because the moment you let the devil take that, it's like, okay, it's just what it is. It's no hope. I give up hope. This thing ain't gonna never change. Okay, God, this is what it is. No, but God is able, child of God. And I don't know what you're going through. I don't know who you're going through it with. I don't know how long you're going through it, how long you've been going through it. It don't matter what it is, God can turn it around. And if God can't turn it around, child of God, it cannot be turned around. But use this as an indication for your own story, right? Use this biblical story as an indication that God is able to turn around a situation that looks like it cannot be turned around, right? So your affliction and your suffering is there so that God's name can be glorified.